Okay, so I'm calling this little video Chords Part 1. Some of you are going to have to do analyzing and writing of chords for your AIM test, and just understanding basic chord structure and how to determine whether it's a major chord or minor chord. These are all really important abilities that you should have as you continue to play. So I'm going to do a little bit of just explaining to you. First of all, I'm going to verbalize it to you, then I'm going to turn the camera around and show you some things with the dry erase board. But to, first of all, just talk about the two types of chords, a major chord and a minor chord. I'm just going to be using C right now. And of course, we are used to hearing this sound of what a major chord sounds like. To make that minor, we learned early on that you would lower your 3 finger, and what we're doing is we're switching the type of interval that we have. So I want to talk a little bit today about major thirds and minor thirds, because to understand a major chord and a minor chord, you need to understand those. And I believe that most of you who are watching this are going to have to be able to recognize the sound of a major third and a minor third. A major third is made up of 2 whole steps. And on a whole step on the piano means that you're going to be crossing over some other note to be able to get to the interval that you're wanting. So let me show you what that looks like on the piano. To have a major third, we're just going to work with C right now, you need 2 whole steps. And to visualize a whole step, you need to include this black key. So we're kind of making this little jump. That's a step. This is our second step. 2 whole steps makes a major third. We learned back when we were learning about half steps and whole steps that when you go from a white key to a black key, that's a half step. Or if you go from a white key to a white key without a black key in between, this is also a half step. So your job to figure out, first of all, when you're looking at your chords that you're given, is to try to figure out what type of interval is on the bottom of that chord. And this is a chord, right now I'm talking about chords that are just in root position, since this is chords number 1. So all of the bottom intervals are going to be the determiner for you to be able to figure out whether it's a major or a minor chord. Notice that to make a whole step, you have to include jumping over that black key right there. If I wanted to make a whole step coming from E, notice that I'd have to go and skip over the white key to get to F sharp, and then I'd have to skip over another white key to get to G sharp, and this is a major third. So notice it's not so much what color key, but it's how you move. You have to move not just a half step, but a whole step. Okay? There's a whole step, which is a major second. And then your major third. So a major third is made up of 2 whole steps. Now a minor third, let's go back to C, is made up of a whole step and a half step. A whole step and then a half step. So when we were learning how to play these in our 5-finger scales, way back when you started learning how to play, this is where we would start in our major pattern, lower our 3-finger, and we would have a minor chord then. So if I would be playing a C major triad, if I wanted to make it minor, I would lower my 3, and I have a C minor chord. Now let's take a look and see what that looks like if we are given just a chord to look at on our test. Let's do a little bit of work. We're going to be working on the treble clef first of all, because at think it would be easier for you to understand. And let's just take a basic F major chord. Now, how do I know that that chord is F major? Well, I can look here and I can see that this is a major third. F to G is a whole step, and G to A is another whole step. When you have a major chord, then this part, this third right here, is a major third, which makes that the upper interval is going to be a minor third. That just means that here you're only going up a step and a half, here you're going up 2 whole steps. If I wanted to write a minor chord, let's use our F again. What I need to do is make this bottom interval a minor third. And the way I would do that is I would have to close this interval here from a major third to a minor third, so I would flat my A. Now I have an F minor chord. Oops, let me go like that. Okay? Now your job, if you are in the earlier stages of just recognizing chords, and I believe that early on what they'll do is they'll give you a choice and they'll say, is this an F major chord or an F minor chord? Let's just draw one of these on here again. They would say, for instance, is this F major or F minor? And your job would be to circle F major as the correct answer. So the important part is to look at this bottom interval and to see whether you have a major third or a minor third. Because in a major chord, you will have, usually I do this on this side, for those of you who have done this in your lesson before. For a major chord, you're going to have a major third here, and then a minor third on the top. And that is for a major chord. For a minor chord, we just flip-flop that, and you have a minor third on the bottom and a major third on the top. Those are your 2 basic chords, major and minor. And if you were at the level where you would have to write one of those, let me just quickly go over what that would be like. What I suggest you do is they're going to, at the early stages of writing chords, they're just going to ask you to write it in root position. And just remember, root position is what I had before, when you stack them up and they look like blocks that are sitting on top of each other. So my suggestion is, if they said they wanted you to write an A major chord, first of all, what I want you to do is just build your chord like the snowman kind of part of the chord, okay, where you're going to stack the whole notes on top of each other like that. Don't worry about your sharps and flats yet. All I want you to do is just think about, okay, if it's going to be an A major chord, I need to have an A on the bottom, and I need to stack a third above that and a fifth above that. Then, once you have it written like that in root position, then you start figuring out, okay, from A to C, is that a major third or a minor third? And if we go back to here, we would look, we have a whole step and just a half step. So if they said they wanted an A major chord, what are we going to need to do to that C? We're going to need to give it a sharp, like that. Same thing would happen if we were going to be doing a minor chord. Let's say we need to do a G minor chord. So first of all, start on G and stack them up a third and a fifth above the root there. Then think from G to B. Notice I'm not playing. I am using my keyboard to visualize, but I can't play anything for the test. So good to discipline yourself now to be able to do this without playing. So whole step, but I know it's a minor chord, so that means I need to go a whole step and a half step. So I'm going to need to come back to here and give my B the name of, well, if I have to go to this key, and this is another thing I've been noticing, we're having trouble with what is sharp and what is flat. This has to have the name of B because the chord is spelled GBD. But if it's going to be minor, we have to call that B flat. So we'll come back and we'll call it B flat, like that. And there would be your G minor chord. Now it'd really be good if you could just practice writing out a few of these on a piece of paper. If you had some staff paper, that would be great. My goal is to try to get staff paper for everybody to have in their folder, but that hasn't happened yet. If you have a section in your theory book that has triads, then you can go and try to do some practice in there if you haven't already done those pages. Otherwise, I would suggest just trying to write some of these out, stack your notes, even if they're not in lines. Tell yourself maybe this is an A or a C or whatever, and tell yourself A major, G minor, whatever, and practice trying to do a few of these, and bring the paper with you to your next lesson. That would be great. See you then.